says that we are now live. And then it'll pop in and it'll be noisy because that's what it does. So, welcome, everyone, to the Aligned Ambition Show. I am Larissa Russell. And if you give me one moment to figure out what I'm doing, I will tell you more about me. All right. So, um, if you're a woman starting or growing your online heart-centered business, wanting to do things differently, you maybe feel icky about using manipulative marketing tactics and are ready to align your business with your ethics, values, and life goals, then stick around for this conversation. Today I have with me Today I have with me Bianca Rael. I apologize. Bianca was led on a 7-year journey of discovering her purpose, of reconnecting to her power as a woman, finding her strength through a cancer diagnosis, and of starting and growing her business as a business and mindset coach. Should have done a meditation first. Helping ambitious women in their 40s take the brave and bold AF, bold as fuck, step of discovering what sets their soul on fire and turning it into their money-making business. So welcome, Bianca.
Thank you very much.
I often trip over my tongue because my brain goes way faster than my mouth does. And
That's
yeah.
that's perfect. Yeah, it's 9:30 p.m., so I might trip over my tongue as
Oh,
well.
yeah. I'd be done by then. I'd be done. So let's start with, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Thank you. Yeah, so as you said, I'm Bianca Rael, and I live in Cape Town, South Africa. And I am a business and mindset coach. And my journey started, yeah, as you said, about 7 years ago. I was a stay-at-home mom. Um, my background is teaching, and I left teaching to stay at home with my girls. And then I was home with my girls, and which, wouldn't change for anything, absolutely loved. Um, but it left me feeling quite soul tired and soul lost. And I had a beautiful had have a beautiful family, and at the time, kind of everything in my life was good, but I felt so lost and so stuck and alone, um, because I knew that there was more for me, and I knew that I always entrepreneurship was just is just in my blood. And for me, it was never about finding a job. It was always about what can I do? What business can I do? Because I always knew for me, freedom is one of my highest values. And so I always knew that I wanted to have my freedom, still be able to be with my girls, but do something that fulfilled me. And that was a 7-year journey of discovering what that was. And it's, yeah, how I find myself where I am now, really in my purpose, loving it. Even the challenges, all of it, it's still absolutely where I want to be. Um, yeah, I love it. I'm looking forward to the growth, to everything. I love
Yeah.
it.
I agree wholeheartedly. As someone who started and stopped for over 30 years, I did that, started and stopped, right? And always went back to that, the, safety of the paycheck. And then I would burn out and I would end up just like hating life. And then I would quit again and and finally it's like, okay, enough. I know myself well enough now. That's not for me. And so, yeah, I'm 100% behind people who are like, take that leap, try it, do the thing. And yeah. And so
And
that,
I think you have to, sorry, but I think you also you have to take the leap not quite knowing what your thing is yet, because that's the way that you discover it.
oh
So
yeah.
all those, it's like that process of trying something, going, no, okay, kind of next, no, and that sort of leads you to your thing.
Yeah, absolutely. What I, was doing off the side of my desk when I lost my job, because of course I didn't quit this time soon enough, right? The universe gives you what you need. And so I didn't quit soon enough. And so what I was doing then is a part of what I do, but it's not my sole focus anymore. And that's the journey. right? That's the journey that we take as we grow and expand. And so how has your business then changed since you started it 7 years ago? You said it was a 7 year journey. What
Well,
was that
I
journey?
started, I started, I've done many different businesses leading me to here.
Okay.
So that's how, I started with, gosh, I can't even think what I started with. I actually started doing CPR and first aid training
Mhm.
for 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 helpers, for people who are looking after children and family members. And then that kind of led me to, I helped my husband with his startup. He had a startup, and that's where I started to learn. I'd never been on Twitter. I'd hardly knew Facebook. It kind of, that was the beginning of me starting to learn about that and those skills. Then I started a blog. My blog was called Date Nights, and I shared very openly and honestly about my relationship with my husband and about marriage and how it's not all happily ever after and you really have to work at it. And so I gave different ideas for what to do on date nights. Um, then I started a gifting business. I've kind of I've tried all the things that I thought. And then it was kind of during COVID times, or was it before I'd already started? I started a women's entrepreneurial networking group.
Mhm.
And that led me to starting an online membership. And that led me to becoming a coach.
It sounds very familiar to me. Over the years, most of them within the creative and or healing realm. I did,
Yes.
numerous different ones. And then I started the online journey with healing with creativity. And we still use creativity as part of it. And I realize how much business, especially women in business who want to do things differently, we need to work on that healing, right? We need to work
Mhm.
on our self-awareness and how we move in the world and how we think about things. And so we still do a lot of that work, but now with, specific to business. And so, yeah, I that's exactly it. Like people think, oh, if I have to figure it all out first, but it's a journey that you go on and you don't ever figure it out. Even when you think this is it, this is the thing, it's still going to change up as you grow and expand. You learn more about yourself when you're on this journey. Yeah.
100%. And I see that now, even though I know that, this is kind of the thing within that, I feel myself constantly changing and moving and going in different directions, and evolving. I think that is the beauty of this kind of business, is that it evolves with you.
Mhm.
And it's such a yeah, it's so beautiful, actually, to be able to for the work that you do, to be able to evolve as you evolve, and then to share that with people as well, you know
Mhm.
so
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And and you mentioned COVID and the switches and everybody kind of switched into the online world, regardless of what you were doing before that. I switched just before that and was just starting to build up. And then of course it ramped up through COVID. How do you think that played out in, building your business through COVID online? What were some of those changes and learnings that came through that? We don't really talk about that anymore. And so just when you brought that up, I was like,
so for me, here in South Africa, we had, I think it was 3 weeks of really hard lockdown, where couldn't go out of your house, kind of thing.
mhm,
And for me, that was the best 3 weeks. I absolutely loved it. There were no decisions to make. It was just, we would, you know, have our little gym outside, my family and I, and we loved it. It was a very beautiful, peaceful time for me. And I think what I also loved about that is at the time I had my gifting business and I knew it wasn't the thing for me. And what COVID did, it kind of forced that business to close down without me kind of needing to make the decision that it's going to close down and feel like, oh God, I'm stopping another business or, you know.
Hmm.
And it gave me so much time to start working on my online membership at the time. Or let me think. I don't, it actually, it wasn't, yes, it was online. Of course, it would have been online. So it gave me time to work on my online membership and to go deep into that. At the time, I was working with a coach. And so I was really focused on my business and starting this next chapter of my business journey, which felt so right and so exciting. So for me, it was, yeah, a really pivotal time actually for being able to make those changes. I think I would have made those changes anyway, but I think it just allowed for so much more space for those changes to be made. And there was nothing else I needed to consider. You know, I really could give my all to that. And yeah, so
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I
think
think
I would
a
find that
lot
a
of
lot.
people, as they were figuring out online, found that. And I know for my own self, even though I lost friends in the pandemic and know other people as well that passed, and it was a horrible thing that happened, it was one of the most beneficial to me times with being, it was really a time to turn inward. I find that there was one of two people that happened through that. Those who were just going stir crazy and couldn't handle it, and those who went inward and were starting to do the work, right? And starting to really look at things. And they came out of it, really shining. And the ones that were going a little bit stir crazy and really struggling with it, not going inward, have really not recovered from it. And that I find it's been sort of the one of two for the most part, not everyone, of course. And then, just all the changes that the world's gone through in the last few years as well.
Mhm.
And now you work with women as well. You work with women, primarily over 40, it says. And what do you find that's different about women, especially women over 40? That's typically my target market as well. Although I do have, some younger women in my group that are I call like a little maybe more life wise. What are those, what do you find that's really the thought process that's going through your followers, the people that you work with?
I think there's kind of two different sides to women at this age. I think on the one hand, there is a sense of, I guess for want of a better word, an awakening and a sense of realizing that one has possibly been on autopilot and to kind of wake up from that and go, hold on, is this it? Is this how it's going to be for the next, however long? Because I think, the end or whatever you want to call it does start to come a little closer to one. And so I think there is a lot more questioning of who am I? What am I doing? And a search for more meaningful and aligned and purpose driven work,
Hmm.
and to actually feel more fulfilled. So I think there's that side. On the other side, I think there's also a lot of fear and a lot of kind of set conditioning, because one has been a certain way for so long and one has a role and an identity as mom or wife or whatever it is. It's often a lot harder to break free from that.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of fear, especially if a woman hasn't been in the workplace, which is for me, I work a lot of women who are kind of wanting to get back now into building their own business. They have been at home with the kids. Now they're wanting to actually focus more on themselves. So there is often a lot of fear around putting themselves out there and, you know, is it too late for me? And can I do this? And a lot of, you know, like I said, for me, being a stay at home was a little soul destroying in a way, obviously on two different levels. But I lost a lot of my confidence. And going back into the work world was really difficult. I remember many times being at, you know, sitting at dinner parties or whatever it was, and everybody talking about business. And I felt like, what could I add to the conversation? It's like all I could add was something about my kids or, you know, and I really wanted to be able to add more, but I also at the time didn't have anything to add. And so then when I started going back into the business world, it just felt like I had a lot to catch up on.
Mhm.
And particularly with regards to my confidence and my self-esteem. I actually, for me, it's actually, it's deeper than confidence. For me, there's a big difference between self-confidence and self-esteem. And self-confidence, I think, is more related to one's skills, and self-esteem is more related to one's worth. And I think it's that real loss of self-esteem that happened out of the work world. So yeah, to answer your question, I think there are these two different sides to women. You know, in their kind of 40s and above, when they're wanting to go back into the business or start their business, grow their business. Um, yeah, and then it's, you know, choosing choosing which one you listen to more. And
Yeah.
of course, I'm always about listening to the, you know, the awakening. The like, let's go, let's make shit
Ab-
happen.
Absolutely. That's a lot of the work that we do in my mastermind as well is, around belief systems and the stories we've been told and the stories we've adopted and, all of those things that we tell ourselves. Because until we change those things, right, it's just this constant hamster wheel that we're on. We're just spinning and spinning and being
Absolutely.
able to, move through those things. So I find that, yeah, like you can learn business skills, right? You can go on YouTube and you can learn business skills. You can go to school, whatever. But until you get those other pieces, the confidence and the self-esteem and the, overcoming all those limiting beliefs, that's really at the core, especially for women in our society to build a business or to really excel in life is that
100%.
part. And we
Yeah.
do a lot of work around that, right? Because
Yeah.
you don't move forward without that.
Yeah.
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 It's such
100%.
such a yeah.
And I think that is, you know, I think especially our era as well. We were very much, you know, we were very much brought up in the world of be a good girl and, you know, don't do this, don't do that, or whatever it is. And although that is still very much around today, there's obviously a lot more consciousness around it. Um, but I think particularly for us, you know, I remember for me, one of my big inspirations was watching the movie Working Girl and seeing women in a position of kind of power as a businesswoman. And that wasn't seen very often. That to me was my kind of benchmark for being a woman in business. Um, so I think, especially for us, we have come from a generation where I don't want to say the empowerment is new because it was around then, but yeah, it's obviously more now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we are carrying a lot sort of with us, a lot of conditioning, a lot of unconscious limiting beliefs that we've
Mm-hmm.
taken on.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, just as we were talking about that, absolutely, that's the part that we are working on constantly, right? And we don't often see it. I think about the women who come into my mastermind or into my community in any way, and they're just like, oh, I'm struggling with, you know, procrastination, or I'm struggling with, I don't know this skill, or it's just overwhelming, and all of these, catchwords that we all hear, but it all comes down to how you think about things, how you move through the world. Well, do you believe that you can do it? Right. And do you, maybe your brain thinks, oh, yeah, you can do it. but then do you really believe you can do it? And all of that really builds on how far you go. And it's a work in progress. And so it's like, all right, we see that we're spinning our wheels. What are we going to do? We're going to stop spinning our wheels and we're going to go over here and work on this because this is really what the issue is. And then we'll come back and we'll move forward. And and that I think is the biggest part that we're starting to understand as women is that we've been conditioned. We've really been conditioned. And so we have to make the change now. We have to go, wait a second. We've been fed all this bullshit. That's not what we need. We need to do this. And that makes a big difference. Yeah.
Definitely. And I,
Yeah.
I even think, I often say that for me, it's not so much that we need more women in power, it's that we need more women in their feminine energy in power,
Hmm.
because that is very different. You
Yes.
can have a woman in power who's acting very much from a masculine, energetic place. And yes, she is physically a woman, but the way she operates is operating from that masculine energy. So for me, it's really about bringing more of that feminine, the flow, the ease, the vulnerability, all of that beautiful stuff, bringing that into the places of work or wherever it is that women are in power. And I think when that happens, that's when we really start to change things.
Oh,
Because I
yes.
think, yeah, at the moment, I think and again, I think particularly our age as well, have been brought up in a time where if you were to be, in corporate or whatever it is, in that position of power, businesswoman, there is that, once again, the unconscious belief and sort of expectation that you need to do it like a man in order to do it properly or whatever.
Yes.
And the idea of what power is and what strength is and all of those concepts. So it's really about turning that like completely on its head and having more space for, yeah, softness, vulnerability, feminine energy.
Absolutely. We,
Yeah.
excuse me, we talk about that a lot. The, you know, it's that collaboration versus manipulation. It's about self-care. It's about rest. It's about creativity. There's so many different feminine energies that are needed that excuse me, my allergies, that we are putting aside to move in this masculine energy world. And really, we do ourselves harm with that, with not allowing our authenticity to come through. I'm going to cough, so I'm going to just
Okay,
turn it
yes,
over to
come.
you for a moment to just
No,
expand on
just let it out and then um yeah. No, I'm like, okay. Yeah, no, but definitely. And I think there's such a place in, in the way that we create our businesses as well. And we still see, although it is changing, that hustle, that like hustle, hustle, hustle. And actually, as I'm saying that, I realize I haven't actually seen that word hustle in a while. I don't know if it's because of sort of the people I follow or because things are actually shifting. Um, but
it
it's
about.
changing that whole, in order to be an entrepreneur, you need to stay up all night and do all nighters and you need to be constantly busy. And, are you even an entrepreneur if you aren't busy all the time? Or, it's really changing that whole narrative.
Mhm.
And yeah, and
Yeah,
realizing that less is more and looking after ourselves is paramount. That for me
yeah,
has been, I've had quite a lot of sort of different health stuff. And that for me has been a very big lesson. And yeah, just really being in touch with our bodies and listening to that. That is for me kind of the ultimate self care.
yeah. All of those things combined to be able to be our best selves to show up in the way that we want, to serve in the way that we want, all of that. And
Definitely.
I apologize with my allergies. I
No,
probably have to
it's
cut our
fine.
conversation short, but I do want to share. You have a gift for our audience. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's more well, the gift is that there's a pre-sale at the moment. um, but I have currently Visible and Profitable, and that is it's a 4-week mini course. It's for women in their 40s who might be feeling overwhelmed and feel like they're not tech savvy and like, oh, the thought of Instagram and reels and stories and what is it all and how do you do it? I explain it. I also teach them how to get your first or next paying client online and to do it in a way where you don't have to dance, you don't have to point at things, you don't have to lip sync, you don't have to do any of that stuff. It's really about learning the content strategy, messaging, how to effectively and intentionally create content in order to get clients without doing like cold DMs or any of that icky stuff.
Well, that sounds amazing. And so where can they find you? We'll have the links below, but just
So
so they know
yeah,
right now.
so I'll send the link. They can find me generally on Instagram. That's where I hang out a lot at Bianca Rael Coach or my website, biancarail.com. And then I'll send you the link for that particular mini course that's happening at the moment.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Is there any final thoughts you want to share with our listeners? Any parting wisdom?
Sure. Final thoughts. There's always such a lot to say in this space, but I think final thought would be something I've often said. And it sounds a little counterintuitive to what we should sort of say about ourselves, but when women are thinking about, especially, putting themselves out there online or whatever it is, I actually say expect less of yourself. Expect that you might not be that good. Expect that it's not going to be perfect. But know that the only way to get better and the only way to learn is to start and to practice and to do the action and to do the thing. And give yourself the compassion and the grace to not be perfect the first time, to not be brilliant the first time, and to just keep on going and know that you will get there. And the only way to get there is to keep on going and keep doing it. So believe in yourself, have like wild, crazy, yeah, mad, courageous dreams for yourself, and know that it's a process to get there. And if you continue and keep on going, you will get there.
Absolutely. You have to start and you have to keep going. Those are the
100%.
main things.
Keep
And
going.
do it messy. It's okay.
And absolutely, done is better than
Yes.
perfect.
Yes. Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Sure.
And if you're a woman interested in aligning your heart-centered business with your ethics, values, and life goals, join our Align Business Building Mastermind. And we have a coupon for 90% off your first 30 days, Aligned 90, and we'll have the link below. And we will see you next time on the Aligned Ambitions Show. Thank you, everyone.